Okay, it says the meeting's being live streamed. Let me see if I see it. Sometimes it takes. Oh yeah, I think we're live. Oh, you know what I didn't say to you? If you have Facebook open, you should close it because it'll
Okay.
we'll
I'm
get
gonna,
we'll get the
me too.
reverb. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna do that.
Okay, we're live. I see us on my phone. Great.
Great. Oh, shit.
Come on in. Greetings. Welcome. I am here today for the 10th edition episode. I don't know the tenth instance of the
We
Black
here
Goddess
again.
Live.
She's here again.
We're here today. We're here today. We come once a month. It's been a whole year of incredible talks with other Black women in the creative and spiritual and the goddess space. And so I'm really happy to have with me here today Blanche Williams, who I will have introduce herself in just a moment. I am Dr. Giavanni Washington. I am your Black Goddess Guide and Ancestral Alchemist, and I help women harvest the wisdom in their lineage, their ancestral lineages, so that they can curate legacies of healing. And I'm here today to talk about playing at the edge. As you know, every month we're inspired by a card from the original Black Goddess deck. And before we dive in there, let me give Blanche a moment to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I go by Blanche, and but I also go by Fluidity and Jami, which is my Mende name that was given to me in my tribe in Sierra Leone this year. And Jami means love, and everything that I do pretty much is has to do with love. And playfulness is one of those things that I am a playful healer, so to speak. And I created something called Spirit Walk Imagery board game that is about helping people find themselves, remembering who they are. And I'm also a business person and other things. I go by Fluidity because I also do sound healing through my flute. And I'm just here to come and have some fun and play with you guys today. So
Excellent.
thanks.
And I was inspired today. I wore my noisy earrings so that we can have a little sound wherever we are. If I move my head too fast, we're going to be making music. I love it. I'm also in a room full of drums, which you can't see, but I'm definitely
Ooh,
surrounded by the drums in my life.
oh, nice.
And well, let's just dive in. If you're there, say hello, and please feel free to ask your questions. I will be able to see them here in the chat. I've got you on the phone. And we start, Blanche, these conversations by reading, showing the image. This is, it's Victoria Falls, but the indigenous term is Mosi Altunya, I believe is the
Mm,
indigenous way they call these particular cataracts, this waterfall in Zambia.
wow.
And on the back of it, it says, sometimes progress on your divine path requires you to work and play at the edge. It requires you to work and play at the edge of your knowledge and experience, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Mm,
Expect some discomfort as this is a place to stretch and learn and grow. If you are
mm.
willing to dive in, the edge is a place of great revelation and gifts you with the tools to have a greater impact. And the motto here is feel
Whew.
the fear and do it anyway.
I
So
love it. That is all me. That all of that.
excuse me. I
All of
would
that.
love to know where that lands for you. What does playing at the edge mean to you?
Exactly what it said. You know, your card is like so spot on. And I hope that everybody kind of heard that and sort of every word, had some meaning to it. I play on the edge because I know that I can't grow if I don't. All right. So I'm always pushing it. And I guess it is. It's on the edge of your knowing at that moment. And then on the edge at the next moment.
Yep.
And on the edge at the next one. So that lands so well for me because I am in a space where I say that playfulness is the new wellness
Mm.
because we've got to play and kids play, so to speak, on the edge all the time because you can hear a parent saying, hold up, wait a minute, slow down, be careful, but we're used to playing on the edge. It's when we get into society and they start putting these walls and barriers and things around us, thinking they're protecting us, but sometimes they're holding us back. Because then we get into a rut of, oh, I can only do this because I'm playing, on the edge, but I'm not really going to it. I'm not going over it. Because sometimes, and you and I were just talking a minute ago, sometimes you fall, but guess what? You're going to land someplace. You're going to land someplace.
That's yeah. My husband said, yeah. Sometimes you land and go splat. It's like,
Exactly.
but even if you go splat, you get. I mean, unless you're physically going splat, you can get up, right, and
You can get
regroup,
up.
learn
Yeah,
the lesson, and integrate that knowledge into moving forward.
exactly.
Correct? Yeah.
Do me a favor and read the card again.
Absolutely.
Everybody really, really listen to the words that she's saying here and see how it really, give it time to really kind of resonate with you.
It says, sometimes progress on your divine path requires you to work and play at the edge of your knowledge and experience, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Expect some discomfort as this is a place to stretch and learn and grow. If you're willing to dive in, the edge is a place of great revelation and gifts you with tools to have a greater impact. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Because, sometimes when you think of fear, for me, fear just means move forward, because fear is about anxiety. It's about being uncertain about something. So you got to like push past it because sometimes the fear is something that you just keep creating because you keep regurgitating the same script over and over again. Like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. How about I do know and I'm gonna do it anyway.
Well, this is
So,
the thing, with feelings, I think that maybe Western society sort of misses, like, your feelings just want to be acknowledged, right? Your feelings are
yes.
absolutely valid. They don't necessarily have to. They can sometimes serve as bumpers. Like if we're bowling, they can be the bumpers in the lane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the edge, I think, is about playing in other lanes, right, and seeing what's available outside of your lane. And so
Yes.
the fear, you can acknowledge it, and you can maybe transmute it into a fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that,
Exactly.
right, and that can help things change. I would love to know, Blanche. So we came up with this title because you are is it flautist or flutist?
It's both flute, same thing. I mean, it's like tomato, tomato. I mean, it depends on who says it, but I go by flautist. It's fine.
She's the flautist. So Blanche is a flautist. I'm a percussionist, right? And I know personally when I don't meditate very well, like the still calm. My brain doesn't like that at all. My brain needs to move to meditate. And so when I'm playing and I get in this repetitive motion, I've also found this when I used to cycle. You're going miles and miles and miles. Um, there's something about there's something that basically entrains you and drops
Yeah.
your brain. It changes your
Yeah.
brain cells, your brain
Mm-hmm.
waves. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know. I just maybe tell us a little bit about your journey with your playing, with your sound healing, because I imagine that you
Mm.
started as a musician. Were you interested in sound healing in the beginning?
Here's the thing, and it's wonderful that you asked that question because I was not a musician. I did not go to music school or I didn't take it in school and all of that. Um, it came because of an illness. I've always loved music. I've loved jazz. My father was introduced me to jazz when I was a little kid. Um, but it came about, I had some surgery, nasal frontal lobe surgery, had facial paralysis. And as I'm recovering from that, Spirit says, go get a flute. This is like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So that's when I said yes. First of all, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, no, because see, that sounds crazy. I'm hearing something saying, go get a flute. I don't think so. But I ended up saying yes, playing on the edge. Okay. So my playing the flute had to do with my healing. It healed me. It really did. And so imagine me playing the flute, the sound, the air comes from the root and moves up above. So I am tuning myself up every time I play the flute. And
Mm.
so when I was playing, I was connecting it to the colors that I felt, which were connecting to the chakras. Then I'm connecting to the keys, the sounds that I kept hearing. They're connecting to the chakra. So everything that I was doing was connecting to this change, because that edge, I went over the edge and I found something new. And then I came to another edge and I found something new. I kept jumping into it. And so I played jazz flute first, because that was the place that I knew the most. I was like, okay, Spirit, if you're going to have me play the flute, I guess you're going to find a teacher, because I'm not looking, I don't know nothing about this. And so Spirit sent me a Grammy nominated music educator.
Wow.
And who his father and his whole family are jazz musicians. His father was one of the greats. And so again, when spirit gets involved, meaning your spirit connects with everything that you're supposed to divinely do, it accelerates. It's like boom, boom, let's go, let's get it going, you know? And so when I talk about playfulness, there's me playing the flute. And then there's this other piece of medicine with the Spirit Walk game, which is about this playful journey. So all of this is about everything just kind of like, okay, she's there, finally, great, great, great. She gonna say yes here? Yeah, I said yes, and I kept saying yes and kept saying yes. And so when I'm playing, that for me is like praying. I play outside a lot. That's a place that I feel the most comfortable. And so when I'm out in nature, I play a lot under bridges because the acoustics are so amazing. I'm always seeking acoustics, because the sound, and then the birds and all of the creatures just kind of commune and play with me. I have so many stories about being out someplace and like, there's like recently I was playing in this little pond, near this pond, and all of a sudden it's a murky pond, and all of a sudden you see these little heads poking up. They're turtles. And there ends up being 11 turtles. That's a master number. Every time I said, nah, that can't be real. Let me look back around. And then, because they're coming in and coming out. And every time I turned around to count, it's 11. So I'm like, all right, Spirit, I got you. And they're just letting me know, we hear you, so it's just an amazing journey. What can I say?
I mean, I love this notion of tuning yourself up, right? And literally and physically tuning yourself up. As you said, the music is running through your body.
It's
right.
Yes.
And then I guess amplifying through that final chakra.
Yes.
I would like to know, you mentioned, let's talk about your spirit walking, because you mentioned that, but people maybe don't know what that is. So tell us about it.
Yes. So in 2020, I mean, the year when, all this, we're in the pandemic where all this stuff is happening, but that was the year. And around the time of my birthday, every time I have a birthday, it's like a rebirthing. I'm rebirthing a part of me, and something is coming out of me. And so in 2020, I created the Spirit Walk Imagery board game. And it's a journey that I took doing collages years ago. In 2014, I started that journey. And I was done. I did what I had to do. I processed and did all the things that I needed to do. And then I've gone through a lot of other spiritual journeys. And in 2020, Spirit was like, we need you to create this. And so for 30 days in September, I literally was channeling, I was downloading. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And then this board game came out of it. But it has images, it's based on and designed on the Metatron's cube. So let's go back to earlier in 2020, I was playing at this wonderful place called Sky Above. And that was through a dear friend who's also connected to Malidoma, Ananaku. And so Ananaku had me come and play at her Sky Above amphitheater. And that was when I was on a stage, and the stage was the Metatron's cube. I had never heard of it, but I was like, this is amazing. This is beautiful. And so I'm playing on it. And then throughout, that was like in January. And so that was just kind of percolating in me. I was like learning more about it. And I just was like, I just love this. And so when I did that as fluidity, I called that performance Spirit Walk. And so it just kind of came back. So by September, all of this was happening. I was like, this is Spirit Walk, you know? So it was part of this journey that I was having. And so now the way it's set up, and this behind me, this is the actual Spirit Walk game. And it's the Metatron's cube, and the images that you see are images that I created. And then I just designed this so that it would make sense. And I do this, it's a 9-foot, it's 5 by 5 foot. So it's a big, large, so think of twister, spiritual twister. It's that size, okay? And so it's designed for us to sit down on the ground, on Mother Earth, on pillows, and I kind of guide people through this journey. And each level is something different. Like in the very center, you'll see trust your truth. That was very important, is that we have to get back to trusting our truth, not everybody else's truth, not what everybody wants you to believe, think, whatever, but your truth. And then in the center of that, there are 4 feathers, and those are called the feathers of change. And so you choose a feather based on whatever resonates with you, and then you choose what it means to you. Does it mean freedom, focus, flight, or faith? And so that's the first choice that you'll make. And then there's another choice that has to do with your life, your life cycle. Okay, that's called the path of 6. Then there's more images that you choose that represent your spiritual path. And then the inner ones are your ancestral guide. You choose an ancestral guide to take you on the next part of the journey. And then there are other cards, and there's sacred objects, and there's different things that go along. And there's flute healing in that too, because I play my Native American flute, which that came later. And then at the end, once you've gone through this journey, once you've gone through this journey, we talk about why you chose the different things. Why did you choose this image? Why did you choose this object? And so that begins this sort of process of people starting to remember who they are. That is what this is about. It's about remembering who you are. It's a game where all your choices are right and everybody wins. So it's not about second guessing yourself. If you choose something, trust that. Trust it. You know.
This has actually come up for me a lot recently. The concept of remembering who you are. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to know what you think the benefits of that are. What's the healing behind remembering who you are?
See, there's so many layers to what you just asked. Okay, so the first layer is who you are, and I speak for myself. Who am I how am I connected to the rest of my ancestors and the universe? And that takes time. But recently, I was reconnected to my African ancestry, and I traveled there. I was done naming ceremonies. I now have citizenship in that country. That's how significant that was. Okay, I have my passport to this country. There's dual citizenship between. Now I truly am an African American. Yeah. So that identity of yes. I have to remember who I am from a human side, but I have to remember who I am from that being side. You know, I'm being and I'm becoming. That's something that I speak a lot about. Being where you are, but becoming who you're meant to be takes you to remember. Meaning, like for what I'm doing right now, obviously some space in my life or lifetimes, I was a musician. There's something there. There's no reason that I would have connected that quickly with a flute. Did not know how to read music. Okay, I read music now. I compose. That's not like, come on. I know for me, that's significant. There's something that I'm remembering, and it's coming quickly to me. So I think that part of your healing is when you don't have an identity crisis. That's why
Mm.
they call it a crisis. Is I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. So I'm just grabbing at straws instead of saying, you know what? Let me take the time to know who I am. Meaning, what do I like? What do I resonate with? Um, I grew up Catholic, but I knew that wasn't I knew that wasn't where I was supposed to be. But I was always connected to God. That was the key. God has always been a part of the equation. This higher source, this higher being, but the dogma was not my identity. That is not where I could stay. So that for me was, again, identity. So I think that there is a real healing when you realize that, oh, all these things that I've been feeling, so that's real. That intuitive wisdom you're accepting. So it's remembering and it's accepting, it's claiming, and then it's commanding it. I mean, I'm in a space of I've claimed it, now it's being I'm commanding it. And that it takes acceptance and it takes the journey. I mean, that's why I call Spirit Walk it's a playful journey, because you're going to remember things and
Right.
then it's up to you to go to the next step. I'm not an oracle. Nothing that I do is about me telling you what a card means, what this sound means to you, what this playfulness means to you. That's for you. That is a very trusting your truth is very significant, because um, there's a quote that says that when the student is ready,
Teacher
the
appears.
teacher disappears.
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 Okay.
So when you're ready, you realize you don't need a teacher. Okay? You live in a classroom where nature and creatures, you have messages all the time. You have animals that walk with you. You step on the ground. How about think about this? Every time that you walk, this is how deep Mother Earth is. Every time you walk, how about Mother Earth meets you and she uplifts you? Every step you take, you're never alone. So when that's what I'm saying, this as long as you don't fully understand your identity and your where you are and how significant your presence is in this space that you hold, you're not going to fully be able to be healed. You're going to feel like there's something wrong, but there's not. There's something right, but you just need to remember that it is, but
So
it
this
takes
is a
time.
for the people in this country who don't have the benefit of knowing their origins. Um, you know, if we'll talk about Black people for a moment, most of us African Americans know that we have African ancestry, and
Mm-hmm.
even when you do the DNA, uh, I mean, I've done mine, and it was so generous. It was like you came from these 17 countries, and I was like, that's not helpful. But then I did African ancestry DNA, and this is not
That's
an
the one
ad.
I did.
This was my experience,
Yeah.
and found out that my dad's people come from at least one line, comes from the Bisa people of Burkina Faso, and
Boom.
how I had already been to Burkina twice, how I ended up studying with Malidoma. I found
Yes.
all this out after he passed, and it was like there was
Mm.
something that was calling me there. The first time I went to Burkina, I was actually in Senegal, and I wasn't meant to go to Burkina. I was meant to be in Senegal. In fact, it was a trip where I did a week in Ethiopia, then went to Senegal, and then found out about a drum and dance conference or training internship, whatever it's called, an
Uh,
stage in
uh-huh.
in Ouagadougou, and I was like, oh, I got to get there because I was so close. I was like, I got to get there, I got to get there. So I got
Okay.
there, and then I went back. I was there for 10 days, and then I went back the
Mm-hmm.
next year for like 7 weeks. And then that was in 2007. So then years go by, and in 2021, is that right? 2020, I began to study with Malidoma. And he'd been on my radar for a while. I just couldn't. It took me some time to be able to get
Me
myself in a
too.
place to be
Me
trained there.
too.
But then to find out that, and this is maybe silly, but they're peanut farmers, the Bisa people, and my father and my grandfather they love peanuts. Like it was like it's an irrational love of this peanut. And it's actually the only nut that I like that I eat. I don't eat it like they eat it, but it's the only one. Anyway, I don't know if that's important, but it felt, it was like, this is, something's happening here. And what
Mm-hmm.
changed in me once I found that out, I was like, oh, now there's definitely still some mysteries. Not all the lines are solved, right? But in all of the ancestry.com stuff, it never said Burkina, right? Burkina wasn't
Right.
one of the choices. So that
Right.
information, while helpful, is also incomplete,
Correct.
right? And it's not the whole story. And I always talk about dreams or DNA. Like what it is, like you need them both. You need all of this information. You need the spiritual information. I'm a big
Yes.
dreamer. So dreams are something that's big in my life. If
Yeah.
you're getting messages through the flute or through the spirit walk game or through divination or like all these different ways of speaking of speaking and communing with your ancestors, I think that's the critical part.
It is.
That's the steps that are going to get you to this belonging, right? There's this sense of belonging that I think it's healing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And it is definitely healing. And I'll tell you from that belonging standpoint, the connection that we have with Malidoma, that was the place where it was more belonging that was presented there than ever because I have always been different. Meaning, I'm not like everybody else. I don't think the way everybody else thinks. I have this way of moving through life that's different. And when I was in a room full of people who were so unique, these are people that I had, like yourself, that I have read about. But to be in a room full of people who accepted their identity as healers, as medicine people, as seers, dreamers, etc. And I felt out of place but I felt I was supposed to be there. And my friend Ananaku was like, "Yeah, we got to go." And I had read Malidoma's, The Healing Wisdom of Africa years ago, but again, years ago was years ago. When I read it and knew that I was going to be with him, I reread it and I was like, "What?" Crazy. So that belonging, knowing that you're connected to others that are doing their work, who know who they are, that's a different space because you, my sister, my queen, my goddess, you know exactly who you are. And so you play on the edge all day long and you ask other people to come and play with you. Hence, when I found out that you and I who created cards, and on top of that, we're connected to Malidoma. Both of us studied with him, you know, at the last part of his life, the
Yeah.
last time when he's saying, "Look, I'm going to get this to y'all, and whoever gets it, you better go with it," you know, because being elemental and living our lives in an elemental way, not dogmatic, not where you got to do this, that, and the other, but accept who you are. But to accept it, you have to remember it.
Yeah.
You have to realize that happenstance, like there are no coincidence. There's none.
None. Before I
You
went to
just
study with him, like earlier in that year, I had a dream about I was enrolled in a school that I was trying to get to. Like there was literally this journey I was going on, but the school was an elementary school,
huh.
right? And it wasn't. I didn't understand this in the dream, but later I was like, oh, this is about. I literally am being led to Malidoma to study about these elements.
Ah.
Thought that was in elementary school. It's so Blanche, let me ask you this. Because your life is so we spoke some weeks ago in advance of this call, and you were telling
Mhm.
about all the other things that you do in your life, and you sent me your bio, and you have this really full, rich life,
Yeah.
that where the trajectory is not necessarily a straight line,
Nope.
right? And for those of us in the world who live in the spiral, I'll say it like that. For those of us in
Yeah.
the world who live in the
The
spiral,
cycle. Hmm.
I would love to know, I would love to hear like what you have to say to them about because sometimes when you're the only one in the spiral and everyone else is on the straight line, right? Achieving and hitting the milestones that society has prescribed as normal.
Mhm.
or expected. It's
Right.
it can be debilitating and disheartening and depressing. And like, how do you stay the course? How can you keep playing at the edge when you might be the
Mm.
only one on that spiral in your circle?
Well, you got to be disruptive. Okay, you said a lot of D words, depressing, all those D words. Guess what? Be disruptive, and know that it's okay to just be like you, because guess what? In the end, you are unique. There's no one else like you. And if you are around people who want you to walk in a straight line, just have, they're cool, but you need some other friends who zigzag and spiral and do other stuff too. That's where that playfulness comes back. Okay, is that playfulness allows you to have fun as you focus and as you grow. That was my thing, is that when people say, are you bored? A lot of times it's because I don't want to keep doing that same thing. Because if you keep doing the same thing, guess what? You'll get good at it. And then you're supposed to move on. You're supposed to learn something new, add something else to it. But when it seems like you are doing something that no one else has done, and that you get a little, I'll say, scared or fearful. I don't even like to keep using that word. But when you get a little bit of anxiety or uncertainty about it, look to someone that you want to be like, because the normal people, they don't do anything exciting. They're important. I'm not saying that they're not, but I'm just saying that if you feel like you are different and you're called to do something, just say yes. Just say okay. And if you do want to do it, here's a question. How bad do you want it? That's the question. I always ask, I ask everybody that, and especially my son, to be like, he understands that, because when you say you want to do something, when you say that to me, I say, how bad do you want it? I mean, I coach people, I do strategy, all this kind of stuff, but it's all about how bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to get whatever it is that you say that you want? I mean, like you said, I've done a lot of different, there's been a lot of chapters in my life, because
Yeah.
even my life is not 1, 2, 3, and like she's going to do everything like that. It's like, now you can connect some dots. You'd be like, oh yeah, well, I see where okay, I see, well, that makes sense. That's how your life is going to be, is that you don't have to do the same thing. You can do variations of that and use the gifts that you have, the talents that you have, and how about combine those? Because that's what I'm doing right now. Do I make a living playing? No. I have a business. I'm a CEO. I've got a company I've been running over 20 years, but it's all about, it's leadership development. It's, so it fits around what I've been doing. I mean, I've been a speaker, I've worked in radio. I mean, it's a lot of things. There's that business side, but I work hard so I can play as often as I want to. Okay. Because yes, there's the livelihood of things, and then there's the lovinghood of things. There's that place that feeds you, because you are a being having a human experience. I know I'm supposed to do all these different things, but the common denominator is me. So if the common denominator is me, then that means if I want to do it, okay.
So you're getting some clapping and some yesing. Someone some time ago said they love the flower in your hair and that this is immensely inspiring and uplifting. And I just want to say, I do think it's possible for the livelihood to intersect with the lovinghood.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, you can't count that out. I think that is, I have to believe that is.
Well, it's happening right now.
There it is. That's what I want to do.
It happens right now. I mean, I work with, clients, and I choose my clients very specifically. And, I'm in the nonprofit industry. I'm a director with a nonprofit, so I do things that I want to do that feel good to me. Okay. And then when I'm done, doing certain things for that client, I have another client. She's called Blanche. I'm my own client too. Okay.
Yeah.
So my company is called Greatness by Design. That's how I live my life. Okay. That's like by choice. And if you notice how that's been 20 years, everything that I do, it's about choice. I say success is by choice, not by chance. So choose wisely. I say in my Spirit Walk Imagery board game, all your choices are right and everybody wins because I believe in people making choices. And every choice that you made is right. It just is going to have a different outcome if you make another choice. And guess what? I made this one. I made a mistake. Guess what? I can make another one 2 seconds from now. Okay. So we live in this finite world, and it's just like, get over that, get over boundaries, get over limitations. And if you're not living the way that you want to live, but you have a good livelihood, then if that's got to be enough for you, and you decide that, you get to decide. And guess what? 2 seconds from then, you can make another choice.
You can course correct. I feel like we can't actually overstate this. You know, and I'm gonna go back to this living on the spiral versus living in the straight line. I feel like the people who live on the spiral, or who can see the spiral, who are gifted with the spiral, are I don't know, marginalized, made fun of. You know, it can be, especially in their younger years. I feel like it's not always a comfortable place to be. Like, I have a middle schooler, so I'm watching this play out with my child and the group of friends, and how some of them you can see they have a genuine calling already, and how they're so busy trying to fit in, right? Or they're trying to get on that line even though they're on a spiral. And I just wish that this was like, you can live on the spiral. You can, I don't know why this is the metaphor that's come up today, but this is where we are. You can live in and on and around and through and up and down the spiral and thrive. Like, I want that message to go to everyone. Like, I don't think you can actually overstate it, right?
It sounds like
you can't make any wrong choices and everybody's a winner. What was the line?
All your choices are right and everybody wins.
And everybody wins. I think that's fantastic. That needs to be a bumper sticker.
Well, it is mine. I mean, and guess what? Every time people sit down with me, when they don't know what it is that they're going to be doing, and I say that, so look at my body language. So here's where you initially sit down, like, okay, what are we going to do? And I say, all your choices are right, and everybody wins. And they go, oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
And the smile comes over, like, okay, I'm not going to be judged. That's the thing, is that judgment thing is so tough. I mean, hey, I was a kid once, and guess what? Right now, I'm 6'2". So imagine my life growing up as this tall girl who is like taller than everybody, is smart, likes to play sports, all of that, likes to play with, little bugs and this, that, and the other. I mean, but I didn't hear that stuff enough. I guess I blocked it out because I was by myself a lot anyway. I mean, I had siblings, but everybody, it's like, it's okay to do your own thing, especially as an adult.
I feel like this message, I feel like we cannot overstate it. And I was like, your own thing, and to be spirit led, right? To listen to the messages, because they're actually
right.
Once they're everywhere. To them, they're pretty clear.
And they're everywhere.
And they're everywhere all the time.
If you see certain animals, part of Spirit Walk is that there are certain animals in the design of the Metatrons cube with the images. And if you choose a card that has an animal, I share with you what that spirit animal's message is to you. Okay? I make you take accountability for, you chose that card. Nobody chose it for you. But innately, there is something in you that is still looking for messages.
Yeah.
But the deal is that you get to choose the message. You do. Coaching, all the things that I've done that have to do with helping people elevate themselves, it's their choice. And when you take someone's choice away, our history has been that there were choices that were taken away from us as far as where we landed in this world. So, now if you believe that you choose your parents, you choose where where you're going to live in life, or where you were born in life, if you make all those choices, then why would everything else not be a choice too? I mean, it's not difficult. And I applaud that what you're doing, Giavanni, is that you're constantly telling people this is your choice. You're constantly saying, remember who you are. You're constantly doing it. And I applaud that, because whoever's following what you're doing, you're empowering them. You are, but it's still their choice. It's still their choice.
100%. There's
it's still their choice.
In the next deck, the deck that's coming out next year. I don't want to call the wrong goddess, but one of the goddesses, one of her messages, like, she imbues you with choice. Oh, okay.
What is her? I want to know her name.
Because, it's Teme Aurao, and she is from the Ijab people of southeastern Nigeria,
nice.
And she molds the people out of clay, right? And she says, "Oh, you're a thing, but you're not animated. How can I breathe life into you?" And she asks them 3 questions, and their answers to these 3 questions are what animate them and actually set them out on their destinies. Right? But her gift is choice, and there's something about it's not even esoteric. Choice is important, right?
Choice is everything.
It's key. It's key to being, I think, animated, to be enlivened, yes. Right?
Everybody who came on this call, that was a choice. You chose, that I'm going to listen live. I'm going to be here. I want to get whatever it is. I don't know why I want to listen to it, but I do. I think something's going to come out. That's that innate wisdom of yours that you have,
I love it.
And so embrace that. And it has nothing to do with anybody else. Because let me just say this, is that, some people like, this is who I am, and everybody else, it's not about everybody else. It's about you being comfortable with who you are and sharing the gifts that you have without feeling like you have to because someone's looking or not looking or whatever. Sis, please. It's not even like that. Just enjoy yourself. Love yourself. The more you love yourself, the more you can love others. The more you can love your journey. I mean, that was part of my journey, was getting to where I loved more of me than I was concerned about everybody else. Because guess what? I'm not the norm. Nothing about me is the norm. Nothing. So guess what? That was taken out of the equation. It's like, you're going to be 6'2", so there's nothing normal is going to be about you, period. Even with how I grew up, where I grew up, I never wanted to be in a place where you could peg where I'm from, because I just feel like I've traveled around the world. I've lived in so many different places, in this country. I have gone through a lot of different types of careers and jobs and education. But they all go back to communication. They all go back to uplifting others. I've always had a thing about me helping other people find their purpose. I've always been there. So all of this is just a continuation of that. I used to do a lot of speaking internationally and so forth. And I stopped doing some of that because when you start seeing the same people, like they're like, I'm just following you. No, you ain't supposed to follow nobody. You're supposed to get what you need and then let that be a igniter for you to continue your work. It's just, it's hard for me to say it. But I think that I kind of have said it, like, just remember who you are. Just be you, do you. If you had told me 10 years ago I'd be playing the flute, that I would start a jazz jam session for professional jazz musicians around the country, I would have said, really? I don't think so. If you had told me that I was going to create Spirit Walk Imagery board game, then create some cards too, girl, please, I'd have been like, you're really tripping. Okay. But
so we are at time, and so I would love to give you an opportunity to just your final thoughts. You kind of just said some things, but your final thoughts, your final wish for the people who are going to hear this.
My final wish, first of all, much gratitude to you. Giovanni, and for both of us listening to that inner intuitive wisdom of ours and stepping out and doing what we're supposed to, however that looked. For all of you out there who took time to listen to this, I applaud you, because that's a choice that hopefully some of the things that we have said throughout this time will resonate with you, and that you will take a journey, and this will just be one of those things you put in your toolbox, that something that one of us said resonated with you enough to step forward. If you're in South Florida, and you want to take a spirit walk game, take a playful journey with me, please stop by. My website is spiritwalkgame.com. And if you're interested in the Spirit Walk Vision cards, that would be spiritwalkvision.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook too. And fluidity, you'll hear a lot of that. I have a YouTube channel that's fluidity, and it has everything on there. But just know that your destiny, it definitely is in your hands. I know you hear people saying that, but it really is. It really is. And it's waiting for you to remember who you are. Very important. It's probably the most important journey that you'll have in life, is your self-identity, your personal spirit identity is more important than anything else. And staying playful, playfulness is the new wellness. I'm gonna keep saying it. It is the new wellness. It really is.
Thank you, Blanche, so much for joining me today. This has been fantastic. I look forward to playing your game one day.
Yes.
Let's meet somewhere internationally and play the game.
Hey, I can come to California too. What?
Well, I'm already here. That's what I'm saying. Let's go somewhere else.
Okay, then come here, girl. Come on.
You know what I mean? And yeah, please be sure to drop your stuff, your websites and your contact information in the description, or in the
in the chat.
Yeah,
in the comments. Really in the comments on Facebook. Absolutely.
On Facebook, yes.
I will, without a doubt.
Kamala says, being here listening is one of a series of breakthroughs in the last 48 hours. I'm so excited about that.
Right on.
Thank you so much.
Right on.
This is Dr. Giovanni Washington signing off. This is the October edition of the Black Goddess Lives, where we were playing at the edge, and we will see you all next month. Peace.
Bye.
I always pulled on.